Hi there and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth today. If you're a returning visitor, yay, thank you for staying part of my journey. If you're a newbie, welcome to the channel. I hope you're going to find content that interests you throughout your journey. We've got a lot of playlists, which is what I would recommend newbies look at first. Because obviously I say obviously, I'm overusing the word, but basically my background includes being a qualified social worker. I've completed the components of doing a Masters of Counselling, but I haven't done the prac, so I don't hold that as a degree. And then on top of that, I actually am also a qualified Reiki practitioner. I've done a number of different modalities and I've been working with energy for many years, and that was what prompted my pathway into studies. But kicking along with this is that the idea of the playlist is that it separates to accommodate people's interests, because not everybody, shall we say, who's interested in the mental health stuff or the evidence-based stuff is going to be interested in the energy type material that I load. So what I've done is I've broken it down into playlists, and I recommend that you look at the playlists and then find the content of interest to you. But I'm going to crack on now and get on with today. It's a big video. Hopefully it won't be too long, so I'll rush through it as best I can. In brief, I'll start with the technology because that's been an absolute nightmare for me this week. For those of you that aren't aware, infrastructure has been a problem here for me. I'm in Australia. And what happened was I have had technicians come in and install part of the infrastructure now. And then they got to a certain point and they said, oh, we haven't had training to do this next stage. We'll have to make another appointment and come back. So then I was notified that I would be having a technician come out in 2 weeks to complete it. But I have just yesterday, or on Friday rather, I'm recording this video on Saturday today. I might explain that later. But anyway, I've received notification that they're actually coming out on Monday morning. So fingers and toes crossed, everything goes well. And my infrastructure will be sorted, because that is going to make my life so much easier when it comes to doing the content. At the moment, it just takes forever. Sometimes even to record voices on videos, the computer will lock down and freeze. And I've had all the technological support. I've spoken to everybody about it. And the problem is actually the slow loading speed. So hopefully all of that is going to be resolved, because it's very, very difficult, I must say, to appear to speak in a way that is enthusiastic, shall we say, because I am actually enthusiastic about all the content that I put up. But by the time you've recorded, battled technology and all of this kind of thing, sometimes I think I must sound like so bored and fatigued by it all. Yeah, it's a bit of a brain strain. But anyway, with a bit of luck, that will all be sorted as of Monday afternoon. Now, because I've put up the information on Ariel, the angel of nature, this week, and of course that looks at all the elementals and speaks about divine plants and all the rest of it, I've decided to actually touch on this very sensitive subject, well, sensitive to some people who actually believe that we shouldn't be eating animals. Now, each to their own. I'm not going to tell somebody who doesn't want to eat an animal, such as this poor little bunny. Frankly, I've got to say, actually, I always carry guilt for eating a bunny, so bunnies are not part of my daily menu, shall we say. But the point being that people will do we're not going to eat meat because it carries soul life, and it's cruel and inhumane and this kind of thing. But the point is, what they're missing is a couple of things, okay? Everything is life. There is life in everything. There is life in the plant matter as well. And this is identified in Ariel's video as well. And some people will have done their own experiments on how plants grow. There's been experiments done anyway where you plant a seed and then you send love to one of the seeds and watch how it germinates and grow, and the other one you just neglect and whatever, and it doesn't seem to thrive. So we know that there is substance to the saying that love helps to grow things. Now, this is because obviously the plant is responsive to the care. Now, so putting this into perspective, where I'm going with this is the people that are demonstrating outside of farms and all the rest of it, I think they potentially, this is my viewpoint, need to take a good look at what they're doing and what their motivations are. Because if they're demonstrating simply because they believe that it is wrong to eat meat and that it is cruel to the animal to eat meat, well, frankly, that's their transfer and projection of their limiting thoughts and their lack of faith in the divine processes of life. So before I kick on to why I believe this, I'm going to remind people that throughout history, we have, when we've used animals, whatever cultural or ethnic group that we have come from, when we have taken the life of an animal as a food source, we have utilised every part of the animal. We haven't wasted any of it. And the taking of the life was done with respect, with generally with ceremony, and the animal's life was shown to be appreciated by those people that were eating the meal, you know. Even if we look at the Christian processes, which is, you know, say, what is the prayer that the Christians say before a meal? I can't remember what it's called because obviously that's not part of my culture. Grace, when they say grace. Okay. And then for other people, it's bless the food that we eat, you know, things like that. So that's all a means of showing appreciation to the animal for giving up its life. Now, also historically, what people did is if they ate a meal, they didn't throw the bones away. They didn't throw away the little animal coat, you know. Obviously, you will remember if you look back at the fashions over time. For example, rabbit's fur became, I think, slippers and to keep people's feet warm. And you used to have scarves and all of that. I don't know if you would use a little rabbit's bones for sewing needles or whatever, but certainly the bigger animals, their bones were used for things as well. So none of the animal went to waste. The problem is not eating animals. The problem is, how are the animals being cared for throughout their life? Are they being valued, appreciated, and treated well as we farm? And are we utilising all the gifts that that animal gives to us? Or are we wasting it? Are we throwing away animal materials because of certain restrictions? And one of that might be, and I would like people to think about this, okay? One of that might be where we've demonised the fact that using animal products such as leather is cruel, to use the animal fur is cruel to the animal. I mean, back in the day, for example, crocodile skin was considered to be, well, certainly a really good, hardy product. You could make crocodile skin handbags and all the rest of it. Well, people turn around and say, you know, but we shouldn't hunt crocodiles. Well, we in Australia know that if you don't hunt crocodiles, there becomes an ecological imbalance because historically their populations were controlled by Indigenous folk actually eating the crocodile. And when they ate the crocodile, of course, they utilised all the parts of the crocodile. Then back in the day, there was also the hunting of them for, you know, obviously clothing purposes and stuff like that. So the problem was not that they hunted, it was that they hunted in extreme. And there we're venturing into the problem of animal product, which is this consumerism, this failing to respect what the animal gives to us, failing to care for it, and this disposable society where it just goes to waste. So, yeah, I would say when we talk about eating animals, there is nothing wrong with it. It's how we eat animals and it's how we farm animals and how we use the product. And whoops, I forgot to mention on the other page, of course, I put the prompt up to remind myself, to inform people that animals, in the same way as humans, because we have life, there is a divine plan, there's a divine blueprint to our existence, and we are all part of the food chain under this divine plan, and this includes humans. It seems absurd from a modern standpoint to consider that humans might be part of the food chain, but there are many people that may not be aware that historically, while through the predatory system, the human being doesn't have a lot of animals that can actually take its life. Of course, there are some. I've put some up here, which is, of course, the shark and the lion, the tiger, things like that. But realistically, it's actually the human that is the biggest predator towards human beings anyway. And historically, cannibalism was actually accepted within some cultures as as an acceptable means to survive. Now, before people have a heart attack about this, I'm speaking from my knowledge and understanding, and you might know about it within different cultures. I believe there is a cannibalistic island. It remains cannibalistic off India, but historically, the New Zealand Indigenous folk and certain aspects of Aboriginal people, and I would imagine there's going to be people from both demographics here that might deny this, but the reality is it's recorded. It's recorded historically as being spoken by the Indigenous that have participated in cannibalism. And I actually I worked with Aboriginal people. I'm not going to say what group, but my understanding is that the cannibalism was done as part of their role for the Australian Aboriginal. It was part of the traditional landowners, and this was how they protected the species of other animals, perhaps in drought and that kind of stuff, when there wasn't enough abundance of other food sources. They would then use other human beings. And I need to put a disclaimer on here. It wasn't actually the people that were members of their mob. We don't call them tribes in Australia. It was people outside of their mob. And we people that are not Aboriginal, who are settlers, colonists, or perhaps even, the Aboriginal folk would call us invaders, actually, we question the missing relatives. If we do our family history, we can see plenty of people that have headed off walking through the desert areas or travelling through the desert areas that may have disappeared due to obviously harsh and inclement weather. But because I've checked out the archives and that kind of stuff, I've actually seen where it's been reported in the newspapers that they've found the remnants of human beings. So sorry if that makes you feel a bit sick, but I think it's very important when we talk about this that we put it into the perspective of the time. With the New Zealand folk, I'm very much aware. I did some research at one point as well, and I established that, yes, apparently the traditions at the time is when they warred, because they didn't have a lot of natural big animals to eat from. See, in Australia, we had kangaroos at least and crocodiles. In New Zealand, apparently their largest animal was actually the kiwi bird, which is probably about the size of a turkey if you're lucky. So they were reliant on marine life, or if they had their little tribal wars going on, the losing chief, apparently, it was tradition that the wife of the chief that lost whatever the tribal war was, and the villagers would actually go and present to the winning chief, and they would offer themselves for his mercy, because basically the winning chief would either decide whether or not to keep them as slaves or whether or not they would fulfill the dietary needs of the people, because let's be real, we all need to have protein as well. I feel almost bad saying this, but it's fact. It's the way it is. And some truths are not necessarily pleasant in modern times. We don't need to eat humans anymore because we have farming, I guess. And we would have to consume a lot of protein-based vegetables to be able to get our protein dietary needs filled. Now, where I'm going with this is putting this into perspective for those people that take issue with the eating of an animal's life. It's time to really review, is it bad to eat animals? From my perspective, no, it's not. When we eat meat, be grateful, respect the animal that we're consuming, wish it well on its way. If you want, speed it up, because part of their divine plan includes that they are reborn, the same as humans are. We are helping them on their journey of rebirth, and if we respect the divine idea that's there for all of us as human beings, if we can respect and understand that we also experience going to heaven, if you want to call it that, animals certainly are not banned, okay? Now, the other thing is too, once you develop your clairvoyance and that kind of thing, you will actually see the spirit of animals that have passed over to the other side, your pets, who are your loved ones. And I'm going to share with you, just to reiterate this, when I was starting to do my journey and do the meditation and that kind of stuff, I had actually forgotten about some pets that I'd had in my early childhood until I was doing a particular visualization exercise. And it was like, oh my goodness me, I'd forgotten about that dog that I had when I was 4, things like that. So, certainly, I believe that the spirit of animals goes on. If by chance that I take an animal's life, which I have done, and you're all going, it wasn't deliberate. There's been a couple of times when you drive the remote areas and you have to drive long distances, it's not uncommon to actually hit a kangaroo or a rabbit with your car. Now, always I can tell you I feel guilty about doing that. That's the human response. And I will send it on its way, energetically with love. But yeah, anyway, it's never a good feeling to take an animal's life, especially when you may as well, we call it roadkill here, especially if it's roadkill, because it does go complete to waste, so this is putting it into perspective, except for it becomes a food source for other animals such as the birds and the eagles, and they are vital to the animal hierarchy as well. So, setting that aside, let's take a look at what's new for this week on the channel, and I'll run through it bit by bit and be as fast as I can. So, in regard to the colour content, it's actually quite a big task for me, and as usual, I've got to admit that while I enjoy it far more than creating the content, by the way, far more than what I did with the universal law content, um, it's a bigger task than what I thought it was going to be. One of the reasons I enjoy it so much is because it helps me as much as it helps you. I get a lot of reminders, and at the moment, in answer to the question where people are asking me, when am I going to be doing readings again? When am I going to offer services? Well, frankly, from my perspective, I feel that I'm actually undergoing a healing process myself. I've had some stuff go on, and I find that doing this content is showing me that I'm not ready to go back to doing readings. I've still got to work on my own energy levels and raise my own vibration. And where I'm going with this is I could, but I would prefer not to at the moment, because I would like to continue with this construction or creation of the content that I'm giving to you, because I just find it quite miraculous myself. I do the content for you guys, and as I'm doing it, I undergo a series of healing processes, shall we say. And this is one of the reasons why I don't feel bad that I would deliver a poor quality service if I went into it again. I just feel that at the moment I'm growing and healing, I guess. Now, I want to actually give you a tip here as well, if you don't mind. Well, apparently you haven't got a choice. You can skip on because I've got chapters. But basically, many years ago, the way this works, the way energy works, is really quite fabulous. I had a lady that I knew on Facebook that I felt was a beautiful person, and I'd contacted her on Facebook, and I'd learned that she'd actually been diagnosed with breast cancer. It was terminal, or considered to be terminal. Now, I'm going to try and really speed this up, otherwise it's going to be a very long video. Anyway, what had happened was, obviously, I'm distressed. I might be spiritual and all the rest of it, but at the same time, I realised that she was a mother with 2 young children, and that if she passed away, it was going to have impacts. But, we have to respect divine will and all the rest of it. And she had said to me that she was not going to do the medical treatment. By the way, I need to put out here, she actually died. She decided not to have chemotherapy. She decided to rely on metaphysical healing whatsoever. She was going to prove to the doctors that healing worked. Well, you can't argue with people. I don't encourage that. I've seen too many people die, and I don't understand why it works for some and it doesn't for others, but that's a story for another day. Where I'm going with this is, I had said to her that I knew of a healing technique that was kind of like a guided meditation, and I used to call it the mini-me. And I said, look, I'll type it up and I'll send it to you so that you can practice it, because she was obviously energetically aware anyway. Well, where I'm going with this is I was actually at work at the time that I got a moment to type this document up. And I had been sick with the flu and thinking about going home. It was at one of those stages where the flu was there and you're like, oh, is it bad? Do I need to go home, or should I stay at work a bit longer? Or, not sure where the flu stage was going. It was going around at work, that's for sure. So where I'm going with this is I took an hour out of my day while I was at work being paid. And I typed this thing up and I put obviously a lot of attention to detail in there, making sure that I included every step of the way along for her with this meditation. And it was after I completed it, maybe an hour or two, that I realised by the time I'd typed up this transcript, absolutely every single one of my flu symptoms had disappeared. So while this is not directly related to the power of colour, I've had many similar situations occur through using colour. And what is happening as I type up the content for you guys, I'm receiving healing benefits from it, is where I'm going. So it's kind of fabulous, actually. So this week, of course, you will have seen the Jade be loaded, the Jade video, and of course it's linked and associated with innovative thinking. Now, please do leave your comments on any of the content that I leave up. Leave feedback, whether you think it's great, whether you think it's not. I was going to use another word there. Let's not worry about that. Whatever you feel, think, believe about the content I load up, I'm interested in hearing, and I'm open to all feedback, good, bad, or what's the other word? Can't think of it. Moving on. Indifferent, that's the word that I was thinking of. Whether the feedback's good, bad, or indifferent, I'm interested in hearing it. Okay, so another one that went up this week is cyan, which is one of my favourite colours, and I just find something really refreshing about it. Makes me think of an ocean, even though this isn't a marine image here. There's something about this kind of colour that reminds me of, I guess, positive memories of sitting at the beach and watching dolphins play, perhaps. Perhaps that's what it's about, but I love the colour cyan. So the video for Mauve is scheduled for next week. This, of course, is a colour of divine wisdom and connection, and I'll let you find out by looking at the video yourself when it gets loaded. Don't forget, I do the shorts. I put shorts up as well. This week, you're also going to see the video on the colour of turquoise added. This is another one of my favourite colours, and one that I associate with the throat chakra, peaceful and loving communication. It's just a very beautiful, calming colour. But either way, that video is going up this week. So you will have seen part 3. I think you've seen part 3 of the series on arrows on the birth chart loaded, but we've only got 5 parts, so we're getting there. After that, we're going to be looking at the peak pyramids, and I think I've still got to do the naming numerology, so we've still got a little bit to go, and then numerology is completed. The angel content is well underway. It's really happening, and this is something I'm really, really enjoying. I feel very blessed when I'm actually working on this, and I hope that some of this content to you is beneficial to you, that you enjoy it. If you're listening to this, and I really hope that you are, and there is a specific angel that you're interested in knowing more about, then let me know and I'll see if I can fast track it. At the moment, I'm loading them in order of basically putting it out to the universe. It's like putting my hand in a jar and which one will I do this week and in what order. But if there is an angel that you're more specifically interested in, I'm happy to accommodate that. So go and have a look at the angel hierarchy video. See if there's one that jumps out at you. Let me know and I'll try and push it forward. And once again, don't forget to leave your feedback on whether or not it's working for you or whatever. So as said, and this is why we were talking about the animals and plant life and animal life this week, is because I've loaded the content on Ariel, the angel of nature. Now, something I thought I'd share with you is actually when I was recording this video, in between doing the voice slides, I actually would spend time outside in nature with nature and appreciating, I know it sounds corny, the miracle of life. And what happened was I actually became very overwhelmed emotionally and started to tear up because of, for want of better descriptions, as I say, I'm not ashamed to be corny about this. because I got this overwhelming feeling of love in my heart chakra area. And I just felt so incredibly blessed that I ended up with an emotional release in the process of recording the videos. It's just, once we start connecting with the angel energy and the divine, it just is incredibly beautiful. Words cannot express what it feels like to make that connection. I also did think about, when I was making her specific video, was just how vast and enormous the task of angel and angelic interaction is when it comes to the elementals and divas. And I thought to myself, this is an enormous task. I'm surprised she's not an archangel. But just a reminder, angels aren't egotistical. They're not worried about having promotions, as far as I know. Now, one of the reasons why I'm actually recording this video a day early is because I want to get onto the content. I've got to do the recording for Amitiel, and she's going to be loaded this week. She's the Angel of Truth. She'll be scheduled for this Thursday. Now, I'm not sure, to be honest, that I'm going to keep this particular image here of her. I'm kind of having a little bit of inner debate about that, because this is part of my artistic and creativity, that I try and create the right image for the right angel, shall we say. Anyway, from where I sit, the content, as I said, I really get moved by some of the content that I'm putting up here. It's some really interesting wisdom, and it's about unveiling the truth and being honest with ourselves. The bottom line is that we we do work too. We walk the earthly path, and we try to build our connection with the divine, or to expand our awareness. And as we're doing so, sometimes it can be really confusing for us mere mortals to discern whether or not our visions and thoughts are just mind chatter, or if they're fabrications, or delusions, or whatever, or if they're divinely inspired. Now, the benefit of this video, the Amitiel's energy, is that she helps us to unpack and determine truth from the fictions and fabrications of our mind. So hopefully that video is going to be beneficial to anybody that decides to watch it, and hopefully that's you. So, speaking of art, if this is something that you've actually been enjoying, and I'm not sure people do, to be honest, but it's something that I do, I am going to be loading an art reel this week that will be published on Wednesday. I've completed it already. And this is because, of course, I'm working on the angel content, which is brilliant. And of course, I created some elemental images to go with the Ariel video. So these are about the nature elements and just a couple examples of them. Feel free to make your comments. Let me know what works for you and what doesn't, because I've actually got an idea in my head of what I'm going to do over the next upcoming month. So it would be helpful to know what sort of images you like. Now, in regard to the quotes, there's some going up by the Dalai Lama, some of his quotes. And once again, if there is somebody that you particularly like, or whose words you find to be inspiring or whatever, let me know, and I'm happy to create basically the wisdom quotes to align with your needs, I guess is the best way of describing it. Anyway, moving on. So, my friends, if you've hung in this far, I'd like to say thank you very much for being part of my journey. Thank you for being persistent and seeing it through all the way. I do wish you a very blessed and wonderful week, abundance, and all the joyful things that you so deserve. In the meantime, though, I'm going to say love you, leave you, take care, catch you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.